Africa's exchange of first choice. For the fact behind the figures for computer warehouse company, CWG PLC. Fantastic. The fact behind the figures is a platform that has been created by the exchange to deepen conversation with listed companies with capital market stakeholders. It is also an opportunity for listed companies to discuss their financial performance with capital market stakeholders. Today, once again, we're happy to welcome CWG for the fact behind the figures presentation. My name is Sean Awogmele and I work with the Ngx. Before I proceed, at the exchange, we are safety-driven and safety-conscious. I'd therefore like to crave your indulgence to watch the safety video.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Nigerian Exchange Group Event Center. At Nigerian Exchange Group, your comfort and safety is our priority. As part of our health and safety policy, please listen to the following announcement. For your convenience, the restrooms are located to your right, just outside the door of this event hall. In the unlikely event of an emergency, 2 exits have been provided for your use. A stairway that you can access from the lift lobby just before you enter the event center. Another emergency exit is located right behind the stage's backdrop. The door can be opened by pushing the handle. Please do not use the elevators during an emergency. Rather, locate the nearest exit from where you are sitting in a calm and orderly fashion. Emergency responders will also be available to provide additional instructions as required. Please switch off your cell phones or activate the silent function so we don't interrupt the proceedings here today. Once again, welcome, and do enjoy your stay at Nigerian Exchange Group.
So once again, welcome to the Ngx. Very briefly, I'd like to quickly introduce our dignitaries on the eye table, starting with Mr. Jude Chemaker, the Divisional Head, Capital Market Ngx. You're welcome, sir. From the Computer Warehouse Group PLC, CWG. Fantastic. I'd like to introduce the board chairman, Mr. Philip Hobioha. Sitting close to him is the Group Managing Director, Mr. Adewale Adeyipo, who I understand would also be taking the fact behind the figures. Next to him is the Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Afolabi Shabande. And also Mr. Ireti Yusuf is sitting close to him. You're welcome, sir. Mrs. Taba Peterside is is an independent director on the board of CWG PLC. And the Doyen of the market, Mr. Sam, you're welcome, sir. I would now like to invite Mr. Jude Chemaker for the opening remarks.
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. First, let me start by apologizing on behalf of the CEO of the exchange, Mr. Timi Bobola, who ordinarily should be the one to take these opening remarks. At the exchange, we do place a high premium on our listed companies. Fortunately, because of all the many moving parts that the exchange is involved in at the moment, it's not able to join us at this time. Hopefully, maybe before the end of the session, we should be able to get him. But I do have a speech he's prepared that I will just read on his behalf. And I hope I'm able to do that in a seamless manner. So, good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to today's Fast Behind the Figures presentation of CWG PLC. We're delighted that CWG has chosen to use this platform to communicate its financial performance, strategic and operational development to the investment community. Given that accurate, accessible, and timely information is essential to stimulate market activity, your continued interaction with investors and the capital market ecosystem, it's important to ensure reasonable flow of relevant information to the market. We anticipate that today's interaction will be fruitful, encourage transparency, price discovery, and positively impact the overall performance of your share price. On behalf of the board, management of Nigerian Exchange Limited, or the exchange, the entire capital market community, I commend the board and management of CWG PLC for leveraging this platform to increase its engagement with the capital market community. The exchange encourages all issuers' interaction with market participants through the Fast Behind the Figure event. Since the incorporation of CWG on September 26, 1991, and its subsequent listing on the exchange in 2023, CWG has over the years continued to build its brand as a market leader in African IT industry. CWG, as we are aware, is committed to creating excellent service culture and deliver its operations through global best practices using the ISO 9001 certification process across the group. CWG PLC recorded 476.8 million profit before tax in its result for full year 2022. This result was really an improvement from 449.6 million profit before tax recorded during the same period in 2021. This achievement is as a result of the hard work and resilience displayed by the management team. They continue to strengthen the company's financial performance, maintaining a growth trajectory in revenue by 21% from 11.7 billion in 2021 to 14.2 billion in the same period under consideration. I think they deserve a round of applause for that sort of performance. At the NGX, we remain committed to helping issuers drive great value from their interactions with the market. By positioning ourselves as the African exchange of choice, we will continue to adopt rules aimed at improving the corporate governance of our listed firms and offer products and services that are tailored to the needs of investors in a fair and orderly market. With the fast-changing macroeconomic environment in Nigeria and globally, we encourage CWG PLC to continue to strive for sustainability by adhering to higher standards of corporate governance, deeper social impact, higher regulatory compliance, and greater returns for shareholders. The exchange provides an efficient, liquid, and multi-asset securities platform that offers investors various options, including equities, fixed income, derivatives, and other exchange-traded products, including mutual funds, exchange-traded funds, and the likes. We are committed to developing the Nigerian capital market by providing a market that thrives on innovation and responds to the needs of stakeholders in assessing and using capital. Our market continues to be resilient in providing stakeholders a platform to raise capital and invest. Year to date, NGX has facilitated needed financing for over 3.85 trillion in capital raised by governments and corporates across various asset classes. The market capitalization of the NGX as at close of trading on Friday, 28th of April 2023, stood at 28.4 trillion, with year-to-date return of 1.6%, along with an increase of 985 points, or 2% of the all-share index. Furthermore, we have continued our advocacy efforts with the Nigerian government on behalf of our listed corporates on tax reforms, prioritization of foreign exchange allocation, and stakeholder engagement on behalf of our listed corporates. We have also continued to support our listed corporates by increasing awareness around the benefits to investors and their customers on the extra confidence that can assist listed companies. More recently, we have made several capital investments in the exchange's technology, ensuring that we have had no downtime in over 5 years. And I think that's really what speaks to why the hall looks half full, because a lot of the brokers in the last 2 years have been trading remotely with the help of the VPN. So during the lockdown, the brokers were able to trade from the comfort of their homes. We've never had a downtime in the last 5 years. So that's just a testament to the commitment the NGX has in investing in technology. And I therefore use this opportunity to invite CWG PLC and all viewers to leverage the various benefits of listing on the exchange, including improved access to capital, increased global profile, and access to liquidity. We thank you and our guests for your presence today and encourage you to participate fully during the interactive session. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to now invite the Group Managing Director of CWG PLC, Mr. Adewale Adeibo, to make his presentation. I think you can encourage him by...
Good morning, ladies and okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. It's afternoon, Nigeria, if you're watching us from any part of the world. The Chief Executive Officer, NGX, Mr. Temi Popola, represented by Mr. Jude Chiamaka, the board chairman, CWG, Mr. Filippo Biora, and also other members of the board of CWG. Thank you for your time this afternoon and for joining us. To all our shareholders also here present, I want to say a very big thank you for joining us today. Other executive members and staff of NGX also, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Members of the press and all brokers here physically present or those joining online, thank you for taking time to be part of us today. My name is Wale Adeibo, as has been introduced, and you will be listening to me for the next 20 minutes, where I tell you a little bit more about our organization beyond probably what you found on the pages of newspaper and probably beyond what you've read in our annual report. I've been privileged to be in that organization for 14 years. So I say I'm part of the hood. And I'm extremely fortunate also to be creating what we consider to be the next phase, a new season in CWG. I have a few slides in here. Are my slides going to be up? But trust me, I might not necessarily follow through that. More than anything, I wish at the end of my 20 minutes we will be able to have a decent conversation and, of course, give feedback to some of your queries, concerns, and, of course, probe some of the projections that I have in here. My presentation has been divided into 5 sections, which I call a snapshot of CWG, the corporate footprint and the leverage that we have today, and I will explain why I consider that to be a leverage. The financial performance of CWG, showing a 5-year trend, and of course the projection for another 5 years. The business drivers and outlook will be my concentration today. CWG is a Pan-Africa. Of course, that has always been our description, only for the last few months where we had an expansion out of Africa. But we consider ourselves a Pan-Africa organization, a system integration company, a software management and service management organization with headquarters in Lagos, Nigeria, but with operation in 5 countries. We provide digital technology innovation solutions and services to major industries in sub-Saharan Africa. We have a very large footprint in Nigeria. We're a 30-year-old organization, and we're creating solutions and platforms that could keep us even beyond that. I think Mr. Jude mentioned when we first listed in 1991. That's over 20, how many years now? 30 to 31 years now. We started more as an hardware organization called CWL those days, where we're largely working with major telecommunication companies and providing services based on what those telecommunications companies were, those technology companies were providing. Of course, in 1994, we established the network arm of our business, which we call DCC those days, for those of you that are familiar with the DCC of then. And of course, in 98, we established the software division of our business that we called Expertage. Because of the footprint and the leverage that we had on the hardware business, we went into services, which is an extension of business that we provide for organizations that we've already delivered the hardware to. A lot of them were coming back to us and requesting for extra services, like keeping the service and the hardware up for them to be able to do their business. And that is what I consider the very major part of our strategic change from moving from a truck pusher and getting into real-time IT delivery. That was the beginning of our service business in CWG. And we're privileged to have worked with some notable organizations in this country that has really helped us to scale in that space. Ghana business was established in 2005, and of course, Uganda business in 2010. Then we had Cameroon followed almost immediately. We've been privileged to have some very good institutions around the world conduct case study on CWG. So in 2009, we had Colombian Business School, and of course in 2012, we had MIT from Boston in US conduct a case study on CWG. The idea is very simple. The transition of a small technology company that grew from a less than $10,000 seed capital to, as at that time, a $130 million business within the space of 10 to 12 years. It's one very proud story that we're quick to tell everyone that wants to know about our origin and where we're going to. And I'm sure my team will share some of this case study to stakeholders here present today. We got listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, as earlier announced. And in 2015, the World Economic Forum actually named CWG as a global growth company. The whole idea about that is this is one organization that we're certain can go outside of Africa, that has the potential to scale beyond Africa. And that has been our push and our drive since we received that award. In 2016, we created what we called the CWG 2.0. And the idea behind the 2.0 initiative is also very simple. After 20 years in business, we asked ourselves, what exactly can keep us for another 20 to 30 years in business? And we clearly understood then that it definitely will not be by reselling other people's technology. The pace in which technology was growing as at that time was significant enough for us to know that there's a need for us to do something. The whole idea behind 2.0 was looking at the challenges that we have in Sub-Saharan Africa today. What are those basic troubles that we have in Sub-Saharan Africa that we know technology can help to bridge the gap? So we carefully, working with some other consultants, did a very good scrutiny of those areas that we consider the critical drivers of the economy and areas that we know that technology can help bring some level of relief. And that was what gave birth to CWG 2.0. 2018, 2019, we went in partnership with some other organization, PwC for People Management and Internal Audit Process, which I think is a very important thing for the exchange. It has also helped to strengthen our corporate governance and our ability to be able to be transparent in our organization. We also went with Gartner, that is helping us with business alignment. 2022, we established our Dubai operation, our first operation out of Nigeria. And of course, in the same 2022, we established a fintech organization called Fifth Lab. Fifth Lab is the organization that took over what CWG 2.0 started. And subsequently, I'll be speaking more elaborately into what Fifth Lab is going to do. I call it the corporate footprint and the leverage that we have today. And it's very important I mention this because you could ask me subsequently to say, why am I so sure about the future we're creating in CWG? And I've said we've created enough leverage that we can use that can jumpstart what we're getting into. So I'm not completely coming into the market new with some of the new initiatives that we're bringing on board. We're going back to this leverage that we've created over the years. And this leverage are the 5 operations that I mentioned before now. This leverage is a significant customer base that I think we have in Nigeria today. This leverage is what I call to be the reach of CWG within the financial services space as a result of what we currently do today. We've also been partners to some very known brands around the world, some of which I think we've been able to scale significantly in the Nigerian technology space. A good example of that is our current relationship with Finacle from Infosys of India. 20 years ago also, we brought Finacle into this country. And 20 years after, we're proud to say we have well over 16 to 17 financial institutions today running on Finacle core banking application. The beauty of that is not the number of customers running on it, but the capacity CWG has been able to build over the years in the last 20 years, where we currently have over 110 resources, software developers that are committed to Finacle business and to every other software-related business in that ecosystem. We've been able to, on our own, independently, deploy over 5 to 6 banks in terms of implementation and upgrade. These are many more that time will not permit me to get into, are the many footprints that I think we're getting into to build the next 20 to 30 years of this organization. By extension also is to tell the number of bank customers today that we support on the core banking space. the number of digital customers also that we support on our mobile banking application in partnership with one of our critical vendor, giving mobile banking services to some few banks in Nigeria. Our ATM threshold, and of course, some other critical layers that we've built over the years. This will probably be interested to the exchange and of course to some of the brokers here present and some joining us online. The numbers are the numbers, like I always say, but if you search and look beyond the numbers, then you could find out what is really going on. We've had a steady growth in terms of our revenue, gross profits and profits before tax and after tax in CWG in the last 5 years. Of course, we've had our fair share in terms of the economic downturn of some of the operations where we operate, and of course, some of the changes that happen within the technology space in Nigeria and sub-Saharan Africa. But what we've had to increase and improve shareholder return is a focus to have a steady growth and create what we call the fundamentals for us to be able to grow this business in such a way that we've always emphasized. So if you check from 2018 to 2022, you could see a continuous growth from our top line, and of course a continuous growth in our bottom line. While this was going on, I can assure you that a lot of improved processes and procedures were also going on internally. The kind of business we are getting to going forward, it's not a buying and selling business. It requires some heavy, huge operation for us to be able to deliver on that. We've spent the last 5 years also improving on the internal processes within the organization, creating the backbone for us to be able to deploy services in Nigeria, and our subsidiaries and operations outside Nigeria should be able to leverage without necessarily recreating that process either in Ghana or Uganda. This and many more are the many activities that we've been involved in the last 5 years. For those that won't get into the details of the figures, we will share this presentation, but it clearly shows from the revenue to also our OPEX, and of course, the profit after tax and dividend declared in 2022. Again, I say, and as I've had the privilege of discussing in similar forums like this, it's a new season in CWG, and we're extremely excited about the future that we're creating. And we hope as many of you as are here today or will listen to me subsequently will follow us. And I hope to be back here at some point to give you the outcome of every other thing I've said or promised here today. By extension, we're showing also our 2023, 2024, and 2025 forecast, which we are looking at almost a 40 to 50% increase year on year. We've seen that in our 2022 achievement. We've supported that in our Q1 2023 achievement, where we had well over 60% increase in our Q1 2023 compared to our Q1 2022. If you take that by extension to Q1 2020, we're talking about over 80% increase if you're comparing a trend of Q1 in the last 5 years. We're hoping to close with a 20 billion naira revenue in the year 2023, and of course growing that to a 25 and a 32 billion in 2 to 3 years. We consider it a steady growth still, but I can assure you we'll carefully building what we call the foundation of a lasting organization. Remember I said for the next 20, 30 years, we will be here, and not just here. It's an organization that will thrive. I close by showing what I called a snapshot into the 2020, a 24-month strategy and business drivers. And this has been the foundation of our 5-year blueprint that I think is coming to an end, if I'm correct, this year, which is largely riding on scale, operation optimization, collaboration and co-creation, investors and funding, product growth and commercialization, and what we call the advanced support services and platform. I won't take on whole, but I'll take on scale. Scale is our ability for us to be able to generate more revenue, significant revenue, using the same assets that we currently have today, using the same staff strength that we have today, taking advantage of the leverage that we've created in the last 30 years, going back to all these footprints like I've mentioned, and creating the ability and the capacity to do 2 times more of what we're doing in each of those platforms. Scale is one very important part of what we will be focusing on in the next 3 years. Collaboration and co-creation. We've also been able to sustain and grow our partner network in the last 3 years. We've also been able to get into very new strategic ones in various verticals of the economy. Some of these things are areas that we will be leveraging to achieve the figures that I've projected to you today. One good example is the expansion of our data center business. For the few people that has followed the technology space, you will agree with me the level of investment and expansion that has come within the data center business in sub-Saharan Africa. And that can be further proven by the level of funding that we could see in that space. And that's likely because a lot of organizations are embracing the shared services model, the subscription model. The growth of data has also made it almost impossible for big firms to be able to keep certain assets within their organization. They are getting to the point where they want to focus on their business, and they get the people that could manage the other part of their business, which we call the enabler of their business, to do that. We currently own a data center in Lekki today. With the growth that we've seen in that space in the last 3 years, it's one critical area that we will be focusing on also in the next 3 years. We're open to every form of investment in this space, and we're estimating over a $10 million investment in this space in the next 5 years. And I consider that one of the major critical areas and drivers for our business. We're also part of the Meter Asset Provider, an initiative from the federal government of Nigeria, and also part of the mass metering initiative from the federal government of Nigeria. I won't get into the details of that, but I plead with you to search a little bit about the wealth, the potentials that we have, the gap that we currently have in the metering space in Nigeria today. CWG is lucky to be one of those meter asset provider. We've made the initial investments by having an assembly plant in Lekki, Lagos, Nigeria. We're expanding and extending the capacity of this assembly plant by over 200%. And that will help us also to attract revenue up to like $10 million in the next 5 years. So many other initiatives that time will not allow me get into in here. We have the CWG Innovation and Simulation Hub. That's also is one initiative that I think is overdue in this country because of the critical role that we play within the financial services space. We completely agree, and I think a lot of players in here also will agree with me. CWG stands the best position to own an innovation and simulation hub for the financial institutions in Nigeria today. And I'm happy to take questions subsequently on the details of this. I close with what I call the FinTech organization of CWG that was established September 2022. We call this the next phase of our organization. All the IPs that we've created in the last 5 years under the brand CWG has been moved to Fifth Lab, which Fifth Lab, by the way, is an entity on its own and not just a subsidiary. And subsequently, we will be coming up with some news about the leadership and the blueprints going forward for Fifth Lab. We have some very innovative solutions. I told some colleagues a few days back, and I said we're just scratching the surface of what we call the digital technology innovation in sub-Saharan Africa. I said the wealth, the prosperity that is contained within the digital economy, we are not 10% into it right now. We've seen some very fantastic products in the market, and I completely agree with you that these are nice and very beautiful innovation. But I tell you what we're going to see within the payment space in this continent, we're not close to it yet. So as much as I can tell you that we've seen good stuff, I can assure you also that we're just beginning to see good stuff when it comes to innovation, either in payments, in tech, health, in e-commerce, in agri technology, in education. We've also created a platform to be part of that future. And that's what Fifth Lab is giving birth to. I'm happy to tell you that one of our flagship products, Kuli and Pay, was launched 2 weeks ago. And I think it's going to change the fundamentals of a lot when it comes to the e-commerce business in Nigeria and in sub-Saharan Africa. The gap we are bridging is very simple. If you check e-commerce growth in every part of the world and you compare that to what we have in Nigeria, then you begin to wonder what is wrong with the indices or the variables that we have. How do we have 220 million people in Nigeria, which is a major driver for e-commerce growth, but we are not seeing that level of growth within the e-commerce space? A lot of this trouble, we've gone into the details to understand why. And we've created a products that can provide feedback. We've created a products that we're very certain will answer to some of these troubles that we have and propel the growth within the e-commerce space. There will be the official launch of Kuli and Pay in like a month or 5 weeks to this time. And we'll be sure to invite also the exchange and other stakeholders here present. It's an exciting time for us. We're extremely excited about the future that we're creating. Every day we find new energy on why we should go on, irrespective of whatever the political or the economic situation might predict. We still consider this country and this region extremely viable. So there will be no jackpot for us anytime soon. We are here because the money is here. The problems are here, and we will solve those problems ourselves through our creative thinking. A big thank you again to the exchange for the support you've given to us in the last 3 years. More than anything, I could tell you there are opportunities that we've been able to harness just because somebody failed. We'd rather deal with that company listed on the stock exchange. Not because I was better than the 2 other players. Now, me being humble, I completely believe I was better, but gladly the customer was very clear that I would rather deal with an organization that is listed on the stock exchange because I believe some level of governance will be in your organization. And every time I hear things like that, I've never had the privilege of extending this gratitude to the exchange. I took the money, it's in my pockets, but I should, by extension, thank you also for the good job you're doing and that which you continue to do, because I can see the many changes in here. To the board of CWG here present and those watching online, a big thank you to you all. I have some of my customers also watching online. Some of them have asked me, why are you still on the exchange? And I've taken the time to share some details with some of them why I'm still on the exchange and why I will remain on the exchange. So I say a big thank you also to some of our partners here and our customers and other stakeholders also watching, and members of the press. Thank you so much for your support. And I say, stay close to this place. There are a lot of exciting stuff coming up in this space. You don't want to go away. So stay close in here. Thank you so much.
I'd like to thank Mr. Adewale Adeyipo for the fascinating presentation. I think it deserves a round of applause. And I'm sure we are all convinced that the future really holds great promises for CWG PLC. Without further ado, we would like to take questions from our participants. Like if you have a question for Mr. Adewale and those on the iTable, please kindly signify. My colleague Dayo is here to give you the microphone. So if you have a question from the brokers, from the participants, please, if you have questions for CWG PLC. Okay, I think there's someone here.
Thank you very much, sir, for your presentation. And I'm a journalist. My name is Boni Amadi. I work for West Africa Business News. Sir, in your presentation, maybe I tried to follow, but I didn't catch up with it. Your growth in total assets over this period, then your debts and the total equity growth as within the period. I didn't say it just to put the figures right. I don't know if you will help me with it. Your total assets, total equity value, and debts within that period, within the 5 years projection periods you just enumerated. Thank you.
Okay, I will. The COO will speak to that in details. But two things I should.
So I think we should take the questions at once and then.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah.
So do we have any other person who would like to ask a question? Okay, I think there's someone here. You do? Okay.
Yes, thank you so much, the MD and the exchange for providing this platform. Yes, indeed, NGS has this platform to assist companies to grow. And one of it is why we're here today. MD, fine, your presentation is fantastic. But my question is, looking at the future, in your forecast, I expected, give or take, taking into consideration inflation and some assorting of policies that we are having in this country, can you still meet up the figure you have projected? Thank you.
Okay, there's someone here. There's someone here. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andy Tsaku, straight for Capital Care. Listening to you, MD, I got lost at a point because I was wondering whether I should consider Japarin or stay, regardless of age. Because you got me so carried away that I developed some renewed confidence, not just in CWG, but even in our nationhood. And I wish that such presentations will come in this season more broadly, particularly to our youths. I like the optimism and confidence that you exuded in your presentation. And one of the takeaways from this forum is the fact that we will continue to take you at your word. That enthusiasm was shared, and I got the phrase, "I'm coming back." I think he deserves a round of applause. One other statement you made that was so succinct for me is that numbers are what they are. We're here for what? Facts behind the figures. Numbers don't lie. And I could see a growing trend, at least in the last 5 years, which is commendable. Mine is more of a comment, so in case you're anticipating a question, don't worry about it. I'm happy to know that you have a continuing growth trajectory, and you've invited the rest of the world to look inwards. Nigeria is the place to be. I wish that many corporations, rather than begin to think outside this realm, will be thinking of how we can make it work. So let that enthusiasm continue to be a driving force, both for you as management and the board. The firm belief that is unquestionably guided that we can deliver. That doesn't sound a typical Nigerian story. And I must commend you for such a disposition. I can only wish you better. Thank you.
I think the GMD can respond to the questions and the feedback.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'll start from the last question, and first I say a very big thank you for the kind words, sir. Yeah, it means a lot to us. And I tell you, for every way that I've said I will come back, I went back. And just to assure you again, and I think I have some of our shareholders in here, I told them 3 years ago that I will come back. I told them also this year that I'm coming back again next year. So it's not excitement and confidence coming out of nothing. And I assure the exchange also that I will be back. Also, for your other comment on Nigeria, I always tell every young man and woman out there, including the hold also, I'm the last person you want to talk to before you leave Nigeria, because you might just not leave again. And I won't bore you with the details in terms of the indices, the variables that I have that I can share with you. So it depends on what side you see it. This country is extremely rich, and we will do everything to fix it in our own capacity. To your question also, sir, you mentioned about have I considered so many other reasons and variables why this might not happen. I think we've taken that. And trust me, I'm intelligent enough to know that I will not come to exchange and promise that number without considering those variables. What I've given to you is the discounted value, which is considering all variables and considering every other thing going in a direction that I've not anticipated. At the back of that also is to say there are certain things irrespective of the economic situation, especially in this country, and I will not want to get into that details. There's certain industry that thrive. A good example is the food industry. And I can go more and more around that. We've taken the same approach to look at what we call the essentials, meaning irrespective of whichever way we turn, what are those things that we consider the essentials in terms of technology innovation and technology platform in sub-Saharan Africa. 60 to 70% of our investment are going to these essentials. Then we have another 30% that are going into what we call the enhancement, which are the things that can propel the exponential growth that we're looking at. So if I fail, which is difficult by any means, I fall back to the 70% because we will always get back to those essentials. And with the very able leadership management team that we have, I'm sure that is possible. And surely with God on our side, we will deliver that. Thank you. I'll leave the CEO to talk more into the asset and debt.
Okay. Thank you very much for the question with respect to the asset growth. The focus of the presentation is just on earnings because of the time, and that is why we are focusing on earnings and growth. But to your question particularly, if you check our financials, it's publicly available. Over the last 5 years, our total asset has grown by over 40%, showing the trajectory that we've achieved in revenue also on the asset side also. Talking about our revenue, Adewale talked about where we're coming from, and we also having our own fair share of the economy. I can tell you that the shareholders fund was coming from a negative of about 2.9 billion into a positive of about 353 million within the space of 5 years. That shows the depth of work that has gone into the company and ensuring that we provide returns to shareholders. That is also very evident in our just concluded AGM, where we also paid dividend of 4 kobo. In the last 8 years, the company has not done that, and we believe that going forward, we'll have returns to shareholders. Thank you.
Sorry, I would like to. Yeah, I would like to make a short comment. Basically, it's to both the exchange and to the investing public. You know, at least over the past 3 years, we've put in a very good management team led by Mr. Adeyekbo, who has put in the solid foundation that will see the company grow, you know, exponentially, as he has said. We've looked at all the issues we've had in the past few years. We have the FX issues, which has been mitigated by our homegrown IPs, which is talked about. He spoke about the Fit Lab. We have our operational and FX losses we've had in the past. He's worked closely with PwC and Gartner, and we've put in some structures, systems and processes in place that will also see that growth. You know, so all the foundation that has, in fact, the number doesn't even reflect the investment that have been made into the structures. You know, but these are what we will see in future. You know, so I just wanted to assure the investing public that we have a very good team in place who will see to the future growth of the company. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we'll have one more question. That'll be all. Oh, okay. There's one more. All right, so that'll be all for now.
Okay. Good afternoon. My question is, quite a number of companies have been reporting being impacted by the cash Naira redesign policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and also the general elections that was held in February. So I'm asking, has there been any impact on your operations by these two factors? Secondly, you operate in Ghana, and Ghana currently is having this public debt restructuring issue that has been affecting quite a lot of Nigerian banks. So I'm asking, any effect on your operations at all?
Thank you, madam.
Thank you. My name is Friday Ekioba. I write for National Wire. Just being inquisitive, you said you will be coming back. Is it to provide more information or to raise funds?
Okay, so I'll take the last question first because I think it's, I wasn't expecting that. So I think I'll come back for both. I'm very sure I'll come back again at some point to give the fact behind the figure, which I'm sure the exchange will want, especially to encourage other technology companies also to follow suit with CWG. I also clearly believe in the new drive in terms of the changes I'm seeing in Ngx in the last 2-3 years. And I'm very sure they will build in more investors' confidence in the next phase. And it will become more viable to raise funds. So yes, we are also in that appetite of raising fund in whichever way, either for our projects. So I believe it's very possible I also come here in that space. Then, Madam, to your question on the Naira redesign, yeah, I think every organization and every person, every home in Nigeria felt the impact of that, especially in operations. We serve 17 banks, like I said. Some of these banks have locations in the places you've never heard about in this country. In some instances, it might require me, myself, and our team to be there. So in terms of the logistics, it wasn't a very pleasant time. So we had a fair share of that. And of course, but I can't record any significant impact on that on our operation because we carried our customers along very thoroughly in terms of the SLA that we will be delivering in that time in areas that will be affected. Then your second question was what again? Then on the Ghana market, it's a very interesting conversation also internally within CWG. We believe, which is quite unfortunate, that the situation in Ghana might be around for some time because of the indices also of both the domestic debt and the international debt that we're looking at in this space. But I also believe the way Ghana has done in previous challenges like this, they always come out stronger. And I think we saw that 2 years ago when they had a similar trouble in their foreign exchange position. So we're very optimistic in that space. We're quite very optimistic in that space. But at the same time also we are hedging as a business. So we are limiting our exposure, not in terms of our business engagement, but in terms of the FX vulnerability that we might be exposed to in that region. So we're watching very closely as an organization, and I'm sure a lot of firms, either operating directly in Ghana or outside, is also doing that. So we will keep a close touch on that.
I would like to take the opportunity to introduce the Ghana CEO, who is also sitting here with us and taking the lead, Nana Harriet.
So I'm sure I guess I answered your question. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. That would now be the end of the question and answer segment. I would now like to invite Mr. Simon Data, the doyen of the market, for the closing remarks.
Thank you. And I want to thank the NGS for providing this platform for CWD to come and tell us what they have. I know there are so many things that are incubating yet to be hashed. And I personally, I have confidence in the company. And somebody also has noticed that the MD is also confident in what he's saying. I have to say that if you see a blind man saying, "It stone me, I stone you back," It's not when he stoned that blind man that is going to look for stone. Check his leg. The stone is already there. And when the MD was talking with confidence, there's something is, standing on to have that confidence. And I will also say that this company has the potential to grow. And I will say, if you don't have so much money to make yourself grow to the extent that we want, come to the market for capital raise. We'll try as much as possible to make sure you get what you want to expand and grow to the limit you want to grow. And Tortoise and his wife went to the bush to hunt, and they killed an animal. They put the animal on fire, and the animal was dripping fat into the fire. And the tortoise touched the fat and licked. He said, look at how it is when I licked one hand. What if I put two? He put two and tasted it. He said it was good. And now that you have come with this company, CWG, listed in the market, what about the tech? You have tested this market and see that it is good for you. The technology company that you have, I would say you should come and taste what you are tasting now in that aspect too. Please bring it for listing because it is good for you. Although you have not said so, but your operation and what you have done so far is making us to say, come again. And the fat that you have been testing from the animal you have killed already, you know the taste. So bring the second one so that the two fingers will lick the same. So please, you know that when you come to this market, you are expected to more or less dance naked because you are in the eye of the public. Don't hide anything. From what the MD is saying is like they want to join me to talk in Proverbs. But if there's anything I understand better, it's speaking in tongues. The Proverbs you have been saying. So don't hide all that you have in your kitties. Bring them to the fore because we have said the moment you are listed here, you have to dance naked. And tell us all that you have to make us, judge you and your company better so that you can make all the necessary profit that you need to make in terms of price rising, in terms of, valuing you and all that. So you cannot dance and see your back and say, I'm dancing well. It is the onlooker that will watch you and say you are dancing well. So, and if you don't give us the opportunity to watch you, we cannot say you are dancing well. And finally, you cannot clap with one hand. All the hands must be together, two hands, before the clapping will sound. So if we put our head together, they say two good heads are better than one. Congratulations. Come again, like you said. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the donor of the market, Mr. Sam Data. I understand the GMD has an addendum.
No, not an addendum precisely. I just want to thank also other members of CWG board that are joining us online, Mr. Osnokere, Mr. Faomi Abiodun, and Dr. Olusegun Osho. We also have present here Mr. Adewale, Mr. Babawale, Agbeyanki, MD, Codros Capital, and also a non-executive director at CWG PLC. We have Mrs. Bessie Adeyemi, also the CEO of DCSL, and the president for NBCC, who DCSL also happens to be the company secretary for CWG. So every other thing I've said today, you could be assured, is because we also have a very brilliant company secretary. Mr. Sam, thank you. I hear you. When I heard her speak so much in parable, you need to listen very closely. But I've told you I will be back, so trust me, at some point I will be. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adewale Adeyipo, the GMD for CWG PLC. We have not come to the end of the fact behind the figures presentation by CWG PLC. We hope you all had a good time at the exchange, and we look forward to having you back to share the optimism of the GMD. Thank you again, and have a great day ahead.